Lamandang gombo enjenjen Janza lo inganje lo jem nyen jenda nyen da nanda rabsave jenyen denge enje senje nyen je dongara le banden Gandai zembe zendar mare mendo indonga gezewe Donzo ingan la bunje dranje yen lai drunjo yamde Dondra chendro nyelon leje jandro dronze Mare mensen dong ai nyongo jenyen jenze ranje nam dene da jen san jo drase yenden len zo ja se to vengo jo da jo dan jo nye jandre dale mense jambe yang la Om Arambazana de Om Arambazana de Om Arambazana de Zende Jenje Ro Serenge Dole Demo Membarazane Ganda Denje Shonlo Dombaye Lonje Pompe Nawa Zando So Kangze Tawara De Ma Jongze Dewa De Naya Gombo Jam Yang Jenye Nenge Me Barya Tongwa Jo Unsan Durzen Garai Shereze Be mai Jembai Nishoenga So Nam Nyan Terden Janzai So Gandre Lamai Namla So Wande Jen Sanje Nyembe Donje Se Deren Chen Zhong Duen Jiang Zhen Guo Lun Jo Nandara Samye Nyen Den 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 Gun Chun Jiru Ling Bei Shabla So Wan De Jambai Chen Lai Bei Me Nam Ban Jo Jalase La Je Yang Se Jo Som Ba Kabain Den Den Ben Mai Dong Ai Ling Jayan Jenze Wang Bur So Wan De Kandre Long Jen Bere Nam Ban Zhu Ze Jen Nam Ngai Shen De Lam So Che Remen Den Ze Yan Den Jan Sun De Lon Zhen Da Ye Shabla So Wan De Omen Chen Je Yen Je Po Zhan Ne De Sun San Je Gun Je Ngo Ne Rang Sen Chen Gu Ngun San Den Ze Ba Sa Ve La Me Shabla So Wan De Maria Dambala Yengi Dan Dan De Jenje, Rom Da Dan Mi Yengi Nam Dan, Dua Kun Jin Dan Ge Jin Tam Jen Gen Don Da Jin Chen Den Do, Tamanam Ga Dan Yen Be Sim Jin Tam Je, Namba Tam Je Chen Ba, San Ji Ji Ko Pan La, Ko Bar Che We Che Du La, Tene Nye Gi Tani Tam Be Che, Ngöndro, Te, Nyen Bar Cha Ge Yin Sam Ne Ani, Kulon Chang Ju Cho Du Tu Kebe Go Ne Ani Sem Bar Charles.
So please listen to form the following motivation that it's for the purpose of establishing all the sentient beings that are our mothers on the state of omniscience, that I will listen to this teaching on the Ngöndro, and please listen with this attitude of bodhicitta.
Dene 가장 먼저 원조되기 천장대 안에 가장 대시슈바래 대진나라 데네 원조 천장대라 데네 원조가 것이 이유가 나네 가장 많이 것이지 데네 고된 도르디더블 가장 슈바래.
So here we are going over the title of the text, and in this title are mentioned both the preliminary practices and the main part. They're both referred to in the title. And last time I explained in a summary way, just a brief summary of the main part of practice that's referred to in the title.
네 남도 중에 무대체배 값서트네 사카시지게 안에 오버딩에게 가장 쉬에 템바제샤 아니 가장 쉬에 템바제 좀 나는데 구루 개발 파바데 아니 구루 개발 파바데 아니 올라 아니 구루 니마 워서스르간데 구루 생제 나라네 구루 니마 워서르시바데 아니 대지 넘바데 아니 구루 개발 파바라 나서레스.
So last time I neglected to mention some of the essences, the true kind of natures of a few of the 12 manifestations of Guru Rinpoche. So first of all, now I will just supply you with those, explain those true identities or essences of these manifestations. So first of all, we have Guru Kepa Pagbe Rigzin, the kind of supreme or excellent Vidyadhara or supreme excellent awareness holder, and his true nature or his essence is actually the nature of Guru Nima Wasar, the Guru sunlight or the rays of the sun, Guru rays of the sun, Nima Wasar. And Guru Nima Wasar is one of the other sets of one of the 8 forms of Guru Rinpoche, another set of 8 forms. So actually, Kepa Pabe Rizin, the supreme awareness holder, his true nature is that Guru Nima Wasar, Guru rays of the sun, and Guru rays of the sun, Guru Nima Wasar is actually just appearing in the form of this manifestation.
But the Guru Dorje Tole, the Guru Sanjanagi Dorje Tole Denares, Guru Dorje Tazade Gutar res.
And then moving down the list, Guru Dorje Trollo here is also identical with the Dorje Trollo, who is one of the 8 forms of Guru Rinpoche, one of the other set of 8 forms. And then the Guru Dorje Draktsal, his identity is also Guru Dorje Draktsal.
Guru Sanjanana, Guru Tak Sangajo, Guru Muchi, Guru Tak Sangajo.
So this is Guru Dorje Draktsal here is another form of Guru Rinpoche, not part of the 8. So there's another form of Guru Rinpoche called the Guru Vajrarath, and the form is exactly the same. So Guru Dorje Trollo here, as one of the 12 manifestations, has exactly the same form as the Dorje Trollo, one of the 8 manifestations. And Guru Dorje Draktsal has the same form as Guru Rinpoche Vajrarath, that other form of Guru Rinpoche. Yeah, and Guru Pema Chungne, this one here, the blue colored one, is also the same, also identical with the Pema Chungne from the 8 forms of Guru Rinpoche.
아니 갈덴 렌즈데 아니 구루 쳔적 헤루가.
And Kalden Drenze, you can translate his name as the guide or the leader of the fortunate, is a form of Chemchok Heruka.
아니 락샤 테정데 아니 상다 차나 돌제. 뭐 상다 차나 돌제 발라 남바 아니 구루 락샤 테정.
And then Guru Raksha Tsering up here is his true nature or true essence is the Lord of Secrets of Vajrapani. So we can translate. Neglected to translate some of the names, but Raksha Tsering, you can translate his name as the either the one who has a garland of a demon's skulls, or it may be the protector with a garland of skulls. I'm actually not sure which one.
테네 senjalbode 아니 베마 벤저. 뭐 베마 벤저.
And then Dichin Gyalpo here, the king of great bliss, his name is translated in English, is his true essence or true nature is a deity called Pema Benza, or the Lotus Vajra deity.
데인디다 정말 테네 남부준이기 아니 오데시와 인스라.
So now I've introduced all of you to all of these 12 manifestations of Guru Rinpoche.
테네 가장 아나주 취지 정설되게 아니 로지지 시바라. Guru Rinpoche 아니 아나주 취지 정설되 투줍 정설되 로지지 가장 시바래. 아니 다른 아니 초절링 받으마 취지 간데스는 중앙인데 도르지 시구인스.
So previously I had also explained the history behind how this teaching was transmitted, the lineage and of the teaching, how it was transmitted from Guru Rinpoche in that circumstance. And now I will explain just very briefly how it has been transmitted from Chogyur Lingpa down to us.
아니 Guru Rinpoche 최된 좀 마송네 되니 이시 소절기 아니 숨교된 저 칸도 다이글라 팝데 되니 때를 배샤버와 때를 배용데 다 초절링바 통데네 초절링바 공로 주숨라 되니 Guru Rinpoche 제레스 Guru Rinpoche 샤식도 제네 아니 공개제랑 Guru Rinpoche 군데네 왕롱 티숨라 소바 슈레스 되니 때르체된 저런 바신도 마 때네 뜸바레스.
So what happened is that when Yeshe Tsogyal received this teaching from Guru Rinpoche, she recorded it in the Dakini script. And then Kongi Terror Beswan. Yeah, and then she concealed this teaching that she had recorded in the Dakini script as a treasure. And then when we get to the lifetime of Chogyur Lingpa, when he was 30 years old, he was able to meet Guru Rinpoche in person, and he received various empowerments and transmissions and instructions from Guru Rinpoche at that time, and at the age of 30. And then he also, after it also revealed many of the teachings of Guru Rinpoche that had been hidden as treasures.
때라 배급이 좀 선택하래서나 드네 나마 Guru Rinpoche 삼이 갑소드네 tukdrup 송용데 드네 tukdrup 아니 가서거래 디디기 내된지 로마데 망부시다 요 말에 내된지 로마 영영유디 드네 최디 아니 벨레기 뒤제디 레요 말에 chödi pelegi tüzela lemedi tene tanda terla bene maomba pelegi tüzela lepti tene tedipel ko yor tendi Guru Rinpoche gita tanda nyezani shugen midenzo tene chödi nyamnenche tanda chödi 아니 tanda nedenji lomadi tanda tügabdi tanda leyo mare maomba ligre de chezon tene terla be gore sa terla be sho son kanamta ichi sojala tene sen kanaro tene kunama terla be ra.
So as far as the reason why these teachings were concealed as treasures, basically at the time that Guru Rinpoche taught these teachings, there were not really enough qualified disciples that would be qualified to receive these teachings and practice them. So in this way, at that time, it was not the proper time for this teaching to be propagated. So what they did is conceal these teachings as treasures to be revealed when that proper time would come around, and there would be disciples who would be fit to study and practice these teachings. So what happened at that time that Guru Rinpoche taught these teachings is that he had his few disciples with him that he taught these teachings to, and he said, you are qualified, those few disciples, he said, are qualified to practice, so you can go ahead and practice them, but otherwise, generally, it's not the right time. They're not the enough fit disciples around in this circumstance to practice. So he ordered Yeshe Tsogyal, he gave this instruction to Yeshe Tsogyal and said, okay, we have to conceal these teachings as treasures to be revealed later. So that's what they did. So what this is called is the timely Dharma teachings, or the timely Dharma practices. These are the practices that appear at exactly the right time. They're exactly appropriate for the time that they appear.
Sangye jumdendegi chösungbe kapsula ani kamda wangbo sambala dene chösungora kamsena semjende jogi chödila gasada magasa dende yore susu kam temba sonda sangye susu gaegi chödi dengire dene magai de dengmare dela kamsere kamla dene chösungore ongbola dene chösungore kansa ongbo rabina dene ya amlen thambori dene sopa 가서를 가진기 덤베릭을 때라 소바 된다라 송다 옹벌을 때네 아니 최승의 요래 삼바스양 서서서 삼발라다 아 티메나 가기도 나 티체나 가기도 나 상아도지 티벌 가기도 근데 소소소게 삼바 되지 삼바게 통에 가위 쳐버져 텔라 되게 최승거래 이나 뒤밥기 최승의 상지 값이요 말 구루 코로나 믹셀 많이 봐줘 감다 옹보 강사 섬지강나 태박 뒤밥기 취해서 봐 시를 무르공 취송도 시기군에 선거라.
So as far as the way that the Buddha Shakyamuni taught, he taught his disciples according to three kind of aspects of their personalities, or three aspects of his disciples. He would teach them according to these three aspects. First of all, there is the disposition of the disciple. In other words, what they are disposed to like and what they are not disposed to like, what makes them happy to practice and what doesn't make them happy to practice. And the Buddha Shakyamuni would look at his disciples and teach them in accordance with that aspect of their character, their disposition, as far as what they like and don't like. And secondly, he taught them according to their faculties or their abilities. So for those who had high faculties, he would teach the higher level practices and so forth, and those of middling faculties, the middling level practices and so forth. And thirdly, the third aspect that he would adjust his teachings according to is their outlook or their motivation, you can say. So those who have the outlook or the motivation of the Hinayana vehicle, the lower vehicle, he would teach them the lower vehicle. And for those who had the outlook and motivation of Mahayana, he would teach them the Mahayana teachings and so on. So there's generally these three aspects of his disciples that he would take into consideration when the Shakyamuni Buddha taught: the disposition, the faculty level, and the motivation or outlook. And then when we come to the teachings of Guru Rinpoche, there's a fourth consideration that is given here, a fourth aspect in addition to these three, which is what I just mentioned, that these teachings are appropriate to the time, they're timely and exactly appropriate and what is needed at the particular time. So this is a unique characteristic of the teachings of Guru Rinpoche. So we can see here how the tantric teachings are especially remarkable, that they have this concept of the timely teachings or the appropriate teachings that are appropriate to the time, because we don't find this concept in the sutra teachings.
Chojiling bagi tening around the Tukdrup Barché Künsel de ani tertian sake saja de ani daning kalarongo sheba chojiling ba kongo churguam nishu tindegi tuzila insare tindegi tuzila ani kongita Tukdrup terne shebares Tukdrup terne shene ani korangi loje sawa chene shabares loje je pardoyang korangi an yamne nangores.
So as far as the location from which the Terden Chogyur Lingpa revealed this terma of the Tukdrup Barché Künsel of accomplishing the wisdom mind of the Guru, dispeller of all obstacles, he revealed it from
Daning Kalarongo.
So he revealed it from this place in Tibet called Datning Kalarongo. It's a big kind of rocky cliff or mountain. And so he revealed the accomplishing the wisdom mind of the Guru, dispeller of all obstacles, at the age of about 19 or 20. And then he kept these teachings secret. He didn't spread them or teach them to anyone for about 8 years. And he, but during that time when he kept these teachings secret, he put them into practice. He practiced them in secret for 8 years. And then after that period of 8 years that he kept this teaching secret, he searched out the right person who would be able to kind of translate this terma and to decode the terma. And the person that he eventually found that was the right person was Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo. So at that point, he found Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo, and Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo took the terma text, the treasure text, and decoded it into the teachings that we, the Dharma text.
네, 대인들 말한 그 취지도 배 니버레스 태가를 저길링바게 구르니 추슈 구르니 추 저길링바게 슈 저길링바게 슈네더니 저길링바게 땐네 온도 되니 때리 출로 팝 제온도 단단한 저기 밀로 당가잖아 밀로 숨자마도 두고요 말레스 밀로 숨자마도 두고 말레 취지 배 니버레스
So this being the case, if we think about the length of the lineage, it's extremely close because Chogyur Lingpa himself, he received these teachings from Guru Rinpoche, and he also revealed these teachings as a treasure, and then they were decoded and put into accessible form. And so from that time to our time now, if you think about the length of that time in terms of our human years, it's not more than 300 years. It's incredibly close.
근데 취지배 니보 양자 인바 송장 하나도 취디더니 메스바 가서고래 짱마 답보된 되게 취시레스.
So because the lineage of this teaching, the transmission of this teaching is so close to us, the source of it is so close to us, the source of the lineage is so close, it is explained that this teaching is very pure and it's very pure teaching still.
상마인비 겸젠데 가르스나 베나가나도 상계니마 교회나 상계 주연네 밀로 이동합자 잠프로사레 랍기요레 드니 취지되데 림보차운데 라마 로메 팔라드니 담직 냠용 그래 담직 레용 그래 근데 담직 레용나 최디라 드니 최디비 뉴바디 냠도요 근데 냠용 갑라 드니 로마기 냠네 용도 차나양 드니 주바 터미트바 근데 냠네나 딱 터미트바 근데 용고요 데 담직 상마 매발라 때네 안에 틀려 용고요래 나랑도 취지데 다 대가로 부름버지는 교용데 드니 취지들이 뭐 차요 말에 담직라 드니 약고요 말에 담직 상마 요가 손당 드니 취지들 네바친 보여.
So if you think about the way that the transmission of the Dharma works, they say that it's been 2,500 years since the time of Shakyamuni Buddha. So the lineage from Shakyamuni Buddha reaching us today has gone through a 2,500-year history, and along the way, because that's such a long time, what happens is that the Samaya commitments between the teacher and the disciple will become damaged inevitably with the course of such a long time. And when these Samaya commitments are damaged in that way, it's difficult to gain the result easily with practice. Even if somebody practices very well, puts a lot of effort into it, they may not be able to get the full result. And this happens because of these damaged and broken Samaya commitments. And as far as our lineage, the Choling Tersar lineage from Chogyur Lingpa, it's so close, the source of it is so near to us that the Samayas have not been tarnished at all. Because the Samayas have not been tarnished, we are able to get to the result of our practice very effectively. So if we, to give you an analogy for this, how this transmission can be damaged, the samadhi can be damaged. It's like, on the one hand, some old, a little bit rotten food versus some nice, fresh, new food.
팅상기 미딘 저기 칼라 수바사이라 배 가부치기도 와. 그라 칼라 닝바사이라 가부치기면도 와. 칼라 수바사이라 가부치기도 가르치는 가부치고 와. 칼라 수바사나 되니 벤도 채와. 칼라 들라 쥐채와. 니바채와. 이디 아니 그 칼라 수바들라 가부치기도 와. 대나시레스 나도 저들 배 가부치고 저기 율라고 지레스.
So nowadays, people really value eating a fresh food, don't they? They don't like to eat old food that has been around for a while. And when we eat this fresh food, is so much nutrition and nourishment and benefit for us, right? It's the idea behind that. And so here is the same idea, that we have this transmission or lineage that is very fresh and new. So it's something that is more beneficial, or we would like to practice as more beneficial. And I've seen it myself before, that when people are selling really fresh vegetables, for example, or really fresh milk, everyone will rush and crowd around to try to buy that fresh vegetables or fresh milk.
가르치는 상가적으로 포기하고 그래. 클라스바데 약보임바. 클라스바데 편도 첨보여봐. 클라스바데 누바 첨보여봐. 클라스바데 쥐 첨보여봐. 그 하고 그래라. 재산 그 상가적인 요구여봐.
And the reason that people crowd around and rush in to buy this fresh food is that they know that this fresh food is good for them. They know that it's very nutritious, and they know that it's very beneficial for them. So it's for this reason that they will rush and crowd together to try to buy it. So in the same way, for those people who have a real, are very thoughtful and have a real kind of knowledge and thinks things through properly, now is the time to rush and crowd around to try to practice this practice of the accomplishing the wisdom mind of the Guru, dispeller of all obstacles.
Tukdrup Barché Künsel 같이 모임 바디 아니 Guru Rinpoche 로지라 때문에 Tukdrup 같이 모임 바지 땅. 때문에 조질링발라 때문에 중요하대. Tukdrup 같이 모임 바. 점점 된다니라 때문에 같이 모임 바 하는 거 쉐버 제국이요레스.
So in this way, we can understand that this teaching of accomplishing the Guru's wisdom mind is especially important, especially special. On the one hand, due to its origin in the circumstances of the teaching of Guru Rinpoche. When Guru Rinpoche taught it, we know that it's a special through understanding that history. And on the other hand, we know that it's special due to the way in which it was revealed as a treasure by the Teratan, the treasure revealer, Chogyur Lingpa. So it's important that we understand these things.
Okay,
so now I'm going to tell you about the preliminary practices for this teaching, which I've been describing up till now. This teaching of accomplishing the wisdom mind of the Guru, dispeller of all obstacles.
Adi Ngöndro gi senjangdela ni kirangzula so shugu yuna ta shugu nang ta gores Ngöndro ngak tuen sachi je pas Ngöndro sna Ngöndro re ngak tuen sna nga ni tuen la re nga ni tuen khanden chi la re sachi ji jen ba se re ta khasalbo so yu la gore khasalbo che be gen nang shin la re gen cha nang shin la.
So if you all have the title of the text, it's good to look at it now. You can look at it, and excuse me, just to say, yeah, if you have this text at hand, it's good to look at it. So Ngöndro here means the preliminary practices. It's translated as the preliminary practices. And then the next part of the title in Tibetan is the liturgy, which in Tibetan is the Ngöndro. Literally means what do you express through your speech, what do you pronounce through your speech. I translate as the liturgy. So this is the liturgy, or the what we are supposed to recite or chant for the preliminary practices, adorned with clarifications. So the clarifications are things which clarify various points in the text, and these are likened to adornments or ornaments. So that's why the title is goes adorned with the clarifications.
Chogilingbagi ani tambo Ngöndro timbo de ani ma pabe kapso tershung termagi chökhare yamba shisha ma pabara pabyongde tene pabyongde tela mingko yongde ngaden changju chogi saben shechawa shukso semodo sajigi yamba sengde yo mares.
So as far as this part of the title that I just explained a little bit, liturgy for the preliminary practice adorned with clarifications, the way that this came about was that when the treasure revealer Chogyal Lingpa, when he revealed the treasure itself, that treasure text itself, the preliminary practices that were in that treasure text are in fact the medium length preliminary practices that we have today. That medium length preliminary practice text is exactly what was in the treasure text. And the title of that text was simply the liturgy for the preliminary practices. At that time, there was no adorned with clarifications. That phrase adorned with clarifications was not part of the title of that original text that came directly in that form from the treasure text.
Inayang tenanga teni kansong yorsen tronas dende yona shimbayang dense be shalphang sigre shal shen la pang basigre shalphang dinala yoresra shalphang yor mado ngosu dis dinala song yomares dinala tershung khare yamba shijase pena anonsu de rotimesha dengda om tuje chebo jamden do just dinala mindwa yomare troshing yuna sigdo troshing yuna sirda chirampa treba geba chingi dona Tene di dance mato, tinana page de shaman do. What the nigga tick over the Mangoya, de la Shalpang. The Shalpang denzo, under the Bonana Yomar. Adi Shalpang, the under Gavanana Yori. Over Gavanana Yodi, the Saches, de la Masala, the Dinana Sal, Castle, Sache lover.
So the way that these adornments of the clarifications, the way that it works is that they were not present in that original exact treasure text, exact copy of the treasure text, but they were added to the extensive text of the preliminary practices. And generally they're added as a kind of extra part that one can do if they're interested in doing that, if they have the kind of inspiration to chant something extra or do something extra. And these were added into the extensive Ngöndro as a kind of, they're kind of actually quotations or passages from other places that were put in to the extensive Ngöndro that are kind of referred to out of the extensive Ngöndro that were just put in case people want to do more. They have the inspiration to do more. So, for example, in the Vajrasattva practice in the extensive Ngöndro, there's this long lamentation prayer, and before that lamentation prayer it says, if you have the interest or if you want to do this, then recite the following, and then there's a long lamentation prayer. So this is a kind of taken from somewhere else and put into the text that's not in the original treasure text as represented by the medium length preliminary text.
대가나 신지 원도 등거래나 당보 태가라나 뭐 잠도요 남아다가 그냥 쓰는 머리니로 단로도 넘버실어서 가야 요 머리 다 디나라 메지데 디나라 살기 된디 사체라고 좀 전들.
So similarly, in the medium length preliminary practice text, it goes straight into refuge and bodhicitta at the very beginning. I go for refuge to the supreme operative refuge and so on. And there's nothing else at the beginning. Whereas in the extensive Ngöndro text, there has been added the text of awakening from the sleep of ignorance. Has been added in there to the extensive Ngöndro text, and so it's kind of like in that way, these extra parts of the extensive Ngöndro are clarifications, kind of extra parts that will clarify the practice to some extent.
tene 살체데 tene perna 아니 괜찮아 신소 괜찮아 밀레 괜찮아 잡나 아니 미디 세부 차그라 밀레 도로야 보고 암조로 된다보다 골라다면 원부고 닝제부 괜찮은 잡나 미디 제그로 차그라 테나 신게 tene 딩원도들라 디 카서 디기나 딩원도 디지그로 차고 레시비게 자르다 gem바스.
So these are referred to here as adornment, and the title says adorned with the clarifications. So they're likened to adornments. So in the same way that somebody may become more beautiful if they wear adornments or jewelry, different kind of ornaments, earrings, necklace, and bracelets, this kind of thing. Somebody that may look just like regular before, after getting these, wearing these ornaments or adornments, they will look quite beautiful. So in the same way, this is the analogy that's being made here in the title, that the medium length preliminary practice text is being beautified or adorned with these extra passages of text, these extra clarifications, as it's called. So the basic point is that the medium length preliminary practice text has been made more beautiful. It has been beautified and made more beautiful by these extra passages. So then moving along the title, in the what comes at the end in Tibetan is the main title in the English format, the seed of supreme enlightenment. So here, supreme enlightenment should be understood to be the the level of Buddhahood, and the seed here is refers to the cause that enables one to attain that state of supreme enlightenment.
Subject number subject that is subject of the subject.
So the other day it was discussed that it would be good if I create a outline of different sections of my teaching. So I have done that for today's teaching. I have now created 5 sections for this teaching tonight. So the first topic in this outline, the first section, is the explanation of the words themselves, the words or the words in the phrase preliminary practices in the Tibetan is Ngöndro. So this is the first topic. I will explain the kind of the meaning from the point of view of these words, Ngöndro or preliminary practices. So as far as the Tibetan word Ngön in Ngöndro, which can be represented in the English translation as preliminary, it means something that does not come afterwards, but rather it just refers to something that comes before. It's something that precedes.
Tukdrup Barché Künsel kekyang ngönla togo kuires ngönla togo kuires ngönla togo be chöshik yimba songsam tela ngöndro la pares ngöshik ngönla lame Tukdrup Barché Künsel ngöshik kekyang ngönla togo be chöshik yimba songsam tela ngöndro la pares.
So if the preliminary practice is something that if a preliminary is something that precedes something else, in this case, what is it preceding here? What these practices are preceding are the main part of practice, the main practice of the accomplishing the Guru's wisdom mind, dispeller of all obstacles. So these are the practices that have to be done before that main part of practice, and therefore this is why they're called the preliminaries.
Tema sonza Ngöndro la bares, da nganzo Ngöndro se teta deja de Ngöndro re se ba ma do Ngöndro di ngoshi jinga la dogo re se samlo di shira korgi marwa. Ne samlo di ne korgu re se ngoshi name Tukdrup Barché Künsel ji ngon la thoegi nyam nengi chöshi re do sago re se.
So this is why they're called preliminaries, because they have to go before the main part, and it's important to know this, to understand this, because it's possible we can just have our text and our practice and say, oh, this is called the preliminary practice, but we won't necessarily understand what it is preliminary to, what is its kind of position as regards the main part of practice, that it's preliminary to the main part. So it's important to have this understanding. So now for the second section of the teaching, the second topic, this is this topic is the explanation of the reason why the preliminary practices are important.
Ngöndro ki chöde yago chebayina tene ngoshi ki chöde yago yongiyore. Ngöndro ki chöde yago shimayongwayina tene ngoshi ki chöde yago yongye kabo shira chebar.
So first of all, if we do the preliminary practices well, if we practice this teaching well, then the main part of practice will also be successful and will go well for us. But if we don't practice the preliminaries so well, then it will be difficult, in fact, to practice the main part well.
최신 ngöshi sabarche ngedi Ngöndro sabarche sungre 최신 받아줘이나 ngöshi de ta sabures ya kalchewares ina ngedi 아니 Ngöndro kalchewa인 sungre
수수
교바직대 공부 근데 공부를 안 맞지.
So there's a saying from a great Jikun Kagyu master.
독신 점을 대군이 다 대군 교바직된 공부 공부 채나 남아지요래 될 교바직된 공부 쓰기로
주신 공부를
교바직된 공부
교바직된 공부 the great Jikun Kagyu master, he said you proclaim that the main part of practice is the most profound, but I actually hold that the preliminary practices is the most profound.
아니 저당 경원에 대바이나 아주 율 코랑 경원에 대바이나 무엇이 같이 버려. Ngöndro 무엇이 코랑 같이 버려. 강사 내 당부불 삼로 땅 바이나 Ngöndro 같이 그래.
So if you think about it from a certain point of view, from a maybe more distant point of view, or looking at it in a distance in a way, the main part of practice is more important. It's from that point of view, you can say it's more important. But if you look at it from the point of view of the individual practitioner, then the preliminary practices are more important than the main part.
네, 갈첨부 인솔된 건저 시구부 여름마도 시마도 창마 갈첨부라고 동그래 남말에 되게 처리를 시험데 다디 적천세 배 갈첨부 시라래 다디 딜을 요 말에 저런 디체고를 쓴 시기래서 양 가시기 라그래 저런 건도 란냠슬랑 거를 딜을 쳐요 말에 배 갈첨부래서 시경기 원에 논도 쇼르고요 말에 시경기 원에 논도요 말에 원도 양 갈첨부래라 적천양 갈첨부래 되는 기림 적으로 갈첨부래.
So it's important for us to understand these reasons why these practices are taught to be very important, because many different teachers will explain, different gurus and lamas will explain various teachings to be important. They will say the Dzogchen teachings are the most important, they're the highest teachings. you should do the practice of Dzogchen, or they will talk about the preliminary practices and explain that the preliminary practices are most important, and they also may explain that the development stage and completion stage practices are most important. But from the point of view of the teacher, this is not a mistake on their part to explain it in this way. So it's from the point of view of us as practitioners that we may make a mistake in how we approach the practice in this kind of situation when everything is being explained as being very important. So we will hear the explanation that the preliminary practices are important. We hear the explanation that the Dzogchen, the great perfection teachings, are important, and so on. Every teaching is important. So then from our point of view, we may not understand what does that mean.
Ngöndro kalchiwares lamgiri bale te onde tene ngöndro de kalchimbo chagore ngöndro de meti tene ngöshi de nyamsolang thugu marwa benna kenza thangbo ni jangni kenza thogala lebor ma to thekar kenza thogala jag thugu marwa.
So this all comes to the point that from our point of view as practitioners, we have to know why different teachings are explained as being more important or the most important. What is the rationale behind these statements and what is really meant? So in this case, for the preliminary practices, from the point of view of the beginner practitioner, the preliminary practices are the most important teachings. This is how to understand the statement, that it's from the point of view of the practitioner, from the point of view of the beginner. These are the most important teachings, the most important practices. Because if you don't do these practices as a beginner, then you will not be able to practice the main part of practice. That's the main point why these are so important, why these practices are so important for beginners. So it's just the same way as trying to get up the stairs. You have to go one step at a time. If you don't take the first step on the staircase, you won't be able to reach the top of the stairs. The same applies here.
Ngöndro ke sabche de la ngiba de la ngöndro kalchimbo is ta dinde samlo ta o ta ngöndro de kalchimbo do ngoshi de kalchimbo marado samna rig mares norsong ares tanda de ngöndro kalchimbo imba de kharsana kangsa lamgi rimbe ngola ta onde le thambo bala ngöndro de kalchigre shibike jares sidang ngöndro de ngoshi le jan thagare serve ke ja mares.
So this is the the main point of the second topic that I'm teaching you here. The reason why the preliminary practices are the most important. So this is the way that we should understand this statement, is that from the point of view of the beginning practitioner in their path, as they go stage by stage along the path, from their point of view, it's from that point of view which that statement is made, that the preliminary practices are the most profound, the most important. It's not really to say that just in general or overall, the preliminary practices are more important than the main part. So it's important to understand how it works.
Ngöndro kalchimbo imba dang ngoshi kalchimbo kari imba de shedu gures 타 rikpa jambu shida mena tene nga nangzo pe ki ngone shego res, pe ji shagwa ina, pe la tene tene tuen tok lawa yore, tenpa sonzo, pe ja tenzegi nangla pe mambu ji shagdu gore, pe la tene tene tuen tok dugu res, ta tende tanda nga nangzo ngone pe ji shagwa ina as.
So if we are really sharp, we have really sharp mind and intelligence, then just from this explanation of how the preliminary practices are more important than the main part and so on, just from this explanation we will get the point and really understand what we need to understand. But if we are not so sharp, then we can also think about an analogy for this. As they say in Tibetan, it's by means of analogies that the real meaning is understood. So you can understand there's a lot of meaning and understanding that can be gained from analogies.
Perna tene Ngöndro shibate mangshida perna ngaranzo kangba shik jabu guyona tene kangbe mangshidi tene Ngöndro jabu res.
So the analogy here is that the preliminary practices are like a foundation for a building, a house or some other building. So if we want to construct any kind of building, we need to first lay the proper foundation. So for us, the preliminary practices function as this kind of foundation.
Kirangla tene kangba yakboshi, kangba pe temboshi, pe kangba chakboshi guyona, tangbo kangba te chakbo yongwar chabala kariku guyore, mangshidi yakbo guyora, kangbe mangshidi yakbo sobayina, tene kangba te pe tembo yongurawa.
So if we want to build a really kind of well-built house, well-built building, a really solid, a stable, very strong building, then what you need is a good foundation as a part of that building. When you have that really solid, properly constructed foundation, then you'll be able to build such as a really strong, stable building on top of it.
Kangba soar chabala, kangba yakboshi soar chabala, tangbo te ngonla, tene kangbe mangshidi ngonla dogu gudwa, tekar kangba la dogu medwa, ngonla mangshidi ngonla dogu gudwa, tena shi Ngöndro di Tukdrup Barché Künsel ngonla dogu, Tukdrup Barché Künsel de kangba dagore, te kangba de yakbo yogu guyona, ta te kangba ki mangshidi yakbo yogu gore, kangbe mangshidi yakbo sobayina, tene Ngöndro de yakbo chitangbayina, tene sanyi ngoshidi ba yakbo chagore.
So if we want to build this kind of house, this kind of building, we can't go directly into building the building before laying the foundation, before building the really proper foundation. The proper foundation has to be built before the building. So in this case, the main part of the practice of accomplishing the Guru's wisdom mind, a dispeller of all obstacles, that is like our house. And we want to have this house really go really well and be really properly done. And so that being the case, what we have to do is before going into the main part is to really practice the preliminary practices properly, which are the foundation for that. I think all of you must actually understand this quite well, how buildings are constructed and how before constructing the building itself, you need to lay the foundation. I think you probably know all of that. So yeah, I think you all understand this. If we don't have a proper foundation for a building, then over time, the building will slowly get kind of structural problems, and fall apart, right? Or if, for example, if there's an earthquake and the building has no proper foundation, then it'll collapse easily. So these are the problems encountered when we don't have a proper foundation.
Ngöndro nyamsu malane ngojila tekar jubayina tene kyakbegi gangla tene khangba jabana shin sore gungabe kyakba tubuyura kyakba chaguyura te gangla khangba jabana shin sugore ta gunga kyakba gangla khangba jabna digre ta yarga lemna kyakba shidu te kyakba shine khangba nyodu.
So in some texts it's described that practicing the main part, going straight into the main part of practice without first practicing the preliminaries is like building a house on ice. So for example, in the wintertime, if there may be some ice that is solid during the wintertime and you build a house, you can build a house on that ice at that time, but the house won't last. It won't it will fall apart. You may be able to use that for the winter while the ice is still there, but once you get to the summertime, that house will just fall apart because it was built on ice.
Yeah. 세상 kyakbe gangla khangba jage yengi yana mangshi yakbo so니 khangba jage yente janzu haguro.
So therefore, I think you guys all get it. Would we rather build our house on a foundation of ice, or would we rather build our house on a properly built foundation? I think you understand this idea.
Tadi kandaye chene ngoshidi ani 가르치는 야구 용도고 말았으나 ngoshidi 당아랑도 냠는데 게림 조그림로 게림 조그림데 냠술랑게 강사데 테네 딕바 충중 요데바 소놈 소첨보 싹데요바 텐레지 강사시기 테네 다 ngoshidi 냠술랑 두고 여름마 또베 테네 딕바 첨부 요데게 소놈 충중 요데게 냠술랑 두고 요 말에 냠술랑 마양 데부투베 깔레.
So the way this works, the foundation of the preliminary practice works, is that if we think about the practice of the main part now, the main part consists of the practice of the development stage and the completion stage. So if you have somebody who is has a very kind of few negative actions and negative karma, very little negative karma and obscurations, and also they have a lot of merit. This kind of person with a very few negative karma and obscurations, a lot of merit, they may be able to practice the main part well right away. But if we consider somebody who has a lot of negativities and obscurations, they won't be able to go straight into the practice of the main part. Even if they try to practice it, they won't get any result from it.
캐르토경기 끝나 로니시 생활하고 지기 미시다고 시고고였나 되니 보글로 니숨 지경기 된 지고 잡을 잘라도 짝투 말아 짝투 버스벌 가르고 그렇고 로니시 생활 잡시 렙고 미시고고여와 로니시 생활 미시 렙어 요지 미시여나 잘라 지고 잡을 짝투 그러와 되나시 되니 강사 레 당보바 득바 첨부 영역의 강사 되니 소남지 촉망보 싹매베 강사 된데이나 다 되기 되니 게림 조론데 짝투고요 말에 세림 조론 냠는 제도고요 말에 냠는 제나야 룩룩 켜베 강나 강바 잡아나시.
So we can think about this in terms of another analogy, or think about it in the following way. the main part of practice, the development stage and the completion stage, this is very heavy in a way. It's kind of very substantial and a heavy practice. So if you have a heavy load that you need to carry from one place to the other, you need the appropriate person to give that load to carry, like somebody who's about a 25-year-old, strong person, for example. Somebody's at the right age. But if you give this heavy load to like a 2 or 3-year-old child, they will not be able to carry that heavy load because they don't have the right age there. So it's the same way with this main part of the practice. It's a very heavy or a substantial, a weighty kind of profound practice. And if you give this kind of weighty, heavy, profound practice to somebody who still has a lot of obscurations and negativity, they will not be able to handle it. They won't be able to get the result from it, just like a house that is built on a foundation of ice. It won't be able to bear that load. So it's in this way that the preliminary practices are very important. So it's important that we all understand this, the reason why, the rationale why the preliminary practices are important.
Tang sumbadela Ngöndro nyamnen jering du sumsdo tangaranzo ludenji tobyore tini militandan den bashi chegorsta militandan zembar chebala tin guru ge songyora tenaro Ngöndro ngoshi ni songdo tang Ngöndro ni nangme tini Ngöndro layang tini Ngöndro nyamnen ani geba chedang luksojik jengbo chedang gi luksojik deba chedang gi luksojik sumyores.
So now we get into the third topic for the teaching tonight, which is the three forms of this preliminary practice: the concise preliminary practices, the medium length preliminary practices, and the extensive preliminary practice. And so the Guru Rinpoche has given us the means to make our human life meaningful. We've all attained this precious human life. And Guru Rinpoche has taught us the means to make this meaningful, to make our human life meaningful. And in short, this consists of the two parts of practices of the preliminary practice and the main practice. These are the two forms of that means to make our life meaningful. And among the preliminary practices that he taught, we have the concise preliminary practices, the medium length preliminary practices, and the extensive preliminary practices.
Tene tambo timong lodo namba shila nyamen chegu yore tene temin tene capsim la nyamen chegu yore tene kebar tene sangha doje tibe nyamne dorsemda mendrada laminaldur sum te samma rimba shindu tangbaina da tene Ngöndro kebares.
So now to get into how to practice each of these forms of the preliminary practices. If you want to practice the extensive preliminary practices, then the way that this will go is that you first practice the common preliminaries of the four thoughts that turn the mind away from samsara, or the four mind changings. And then after having practiced those common preliminaries, you then practice the uncommon preliminaries of the refuge, going for refuge, and bodhicitta. And then you're moving on from the uncommon practices, you get to the special practices of the Vajrayana, which are particular, special to the Vajrayana, the practice of Vajrasattva, the Mandala Offering, and the Guru Yoga.
Tanyamnin dingbo de chige na tene lodo na bashibo de ane bashindo kompo yo mare ane ina yang samlo tangko go yore ane tajurnya barkawala samne tene theining bolembe thap tene capsuto wala jugbar chao sne jamdo nyamnen che ta chik thegar tandang ngong ngondro dingbo gi nyamnen chi tangdre.
So as far as the kind of procedure or the way that practicing the medium length preliminary practices will go, for this approach to the practice, you don't have to meditate on each of the four mind changings, or the four thoughts that turn the mind away from samsara individually, set apart from the other practices. But so you don't practice them apart from the other practices individually, but on the other hand, you still have to contemplate these things. You still have to do these meditations. And so the way they do it is, first of all, you meditate on the difficulty of finding the freedoms and advantages of the precious human life in the combination with the practice of refuge.
네, 추함이다 wala samde tene tajurning bolembe thap thamjiki ningbo tene chanjushodo semje badres.
And then after that, you contemplate the impermanence, contemplate impermanence and death at the same time that you practice bodhicitta, which is the supreme method for accomplishing the true kind of purpose or essence of this precious human life.
tene korwa dungal gilang shin ba shene ani tele to be thap den dorsum gomderes.
And then after that, you understand the suffering and the drawbacks, the faults of a samsaric existence. And understanding the sufferings and the drawbacks, you apply yourself to the means to reverse those faults, which is the meditation on the Vajrasattva.
tene le gyundela samde tene tori tobe tap tori dan tharo tobe tap tene chosawa mental res.
And then after that, you contemplate the workings of the karma and the cause and effect of karma, and at the same time apply yourself to the means for attaining a birth in the higher realms, which is the Mandala Offering.
tene tarbe phayen la samde tene te tarba tobe tap tene lam chogdo kyobade lamin namjor res.
And then after that, you contemplate the benefits of liberation. and contemplating the benefits of liberation, you then apply yourself to the means for accomplishing liberation, the supreme of all paths, the supreme of all means for accomplishing liberation, which is the Guru Yoga.
Onde lodo namba shidang tabe phayenga jarde tene nang ngondro ngabode nyamsulangsul jamdro semje torsem ani mendal tenamin nazur tang jarne nyamsulangsul de ani chogiliba lukso dabres ranglures ngrangsul.
So this, what I've just explained to you, is where you take the 4 thoughts that turn the mind from samsara, in addition to the 5th contemplation of the benefits of liberation, where you take all of those 5 contemplations and then apply them to the 5 preliminary practices of refuge, bodhicitta, and so on. This is the kind of particular way that's unique to our tradition. This is actually our own unique way to do this practice in the tradition of the Choling Tersar. So So it is Chogyur Lingpa that kind of composed this text, or not composed the text, but it is he that presented this text for us. And it is Jamin Khyentse Wangpo who decoded it or translated it for us. This medium length preliminary practice text.
아니 Ngöndro 제바테 테니 Ngöndro 딩보테 시샤체니 시딜라샤네 Ngöndro 딩보 시샤체데 테니 terse 세원으로 보당 카르미컴보 카삽 샬방도 카삽 체네데네 Ngöndro 제바서바레스 Ngöndro 제바서겐데 아니 terse 세원으로 보당 카르미컴보 이레스.
And as far as the extensive preliminary practice text, it was the son of the Terjen, the son of the treasure revealer, whose name was Tsewang Norbu, and the Karme Kempo. These two, using the medium length preliminary practice text as the basis, they kind of filled it out, or they added these other passages of text to that medium length Ngöndro to create the extensive Ngöndro.
Sumba Ngöndro dibade ten chapje Tukdrup Barché Künsel ani sona yores kansal de tambo beche to la.
And the third version here, the concise preliminary practice text, was created by the Lord of Refuge, Guru Rinpoche, for beginning practitioners, a very concise way to do the practice.
Teni ani loto namba shigola sopo 공부가 요말에 태gar 니중 태바 닝지게 되더니 잠들로 소고 냠냠는 지고레스 잠들다 잠들다 도심 봄대당 멘드라당 라민남줄 시레스.
So as far as this concise preliminary practice, the way to do the concise preliminary practice, you don't have to meditate on these 4 thoughts that turn the mind from samsara in the same way as the other medium and extensive practices. Basically, what you do is first generate renunciation, faith, and compassion. And after generating renunciation and faith and compassion on that basis, then you go into the practice of refuge, the practice of Vajrasattva, and the practice of the Mandala Offering, and Guru Yoga. So there's only 4 practices. So now I have explained to you the extensive and medium length and the concise preliminary practices that are preliminary to the main part. So now for the 4th topic, which is how the preliminary practices accumulate the requisites or gather the accumulations, and on the other hand, how they purify the obscurations. So there's a verse that goes, the ultimate innate primordial wisdom is only a result of gathering the accumulations, purifying the obscurations, and attending, devoting yourself to a qualified guru. You should know that to rely on any other method to attain that wisdom is mistaken. So what this means is that we have the ultimate nature of reality, the Buddha nature, which pervades all phenomena, pervades all sentient beings. It is all of our nature. And this is what is referred to in the verse as the ultimate innate primordial wisdom. So, but how to realize that ultimate primordial wisdom? First, we have to gather the accumulations. And secondly, we have to purify our obscurations. And thirdly, we have to devote ourselves to a realized guru. And if we try to realize this kind of wisdom in any other way, it will not work. It will be mistaken. There's no way to do it outside of these 3 methods.
Jigdembe lole dene dene tagbe lo chochogla rutubasila ani lodo number shire.
So the different
the matable lo yorangazla mataba jigdingi now the matable lora that the gurgora the lochus rugura lochus do the tagbare did our jebel lochus do ala lodo number shi body lodo number shi lo tabasu res the giant.
So first of all, the way that these preliminary practices function to purify the obscurations that I just mentioned, that are referred to in that verse, is first of all to take our impure worldly mind, our impure worldly attitude or worldly mind, and then cultivate the 4 thoughts that turn the mind away from samsara, and transform this mind into a pure mind that is beyond the world or above these concerns of the world. This is first way that the preliminary practices will purify obscurations, as it's called. So and these four thoughts that turn the mind away from samsara, they take this impure mind and they turn it into a pure mind. So in a way, this is why we have this, why they're called the thoughts that turn the mind, or the four mind changings, because they turn this mind, transform this mind from an impure mind to pure mind. And this is also referred to as turning our minds towards the Dharma. And then when we come to the practice of refuge, bodhicitta, and the prostrations, these serve to purify the obscurations of our body. Then when we get to the practice of Vajrasattva, this serves to purify the obscurations of our speech. And generally, the practice of Vajrasattva will purify all obscurations. That's true, but in this case, it's especially serving to purify the obscurations of the speech. And then to purify the obscurations of the mind, we have the practice of the Mandala Offering. And generally, the Mandala Offering is taught as a method to gather the accumulations. But here in this context, it is taught to purify the obscurations of the mind. So when it comes to the kind of like the practices that really emphasize or really focused on purifying obscurations and gathering the accumulations, these two are done by the practice of Vajrasattva and by the Mandala Offering. The practice of Vajrasattva purifies the obscurations, and the practice of Mandala Offering will gather the accumulations. And as I've been explaining, we need to purify the obscurations and gather the accumulations. And so these two practices are here for that reason, especially in particular the Mandala Offering. The reason why the Mandala Offering is practiced in the preliminary practices is to gather those accumulations. And finally, the method to purify the obscurations of body, speech, and mind all at once is Guru Yoga. So as far as the purpose for purifying obscurations, there's one saying that if one purifies the obscurations, then one will naturally realize emptiness. So this, what it means is when we purify our obscurations with these practices, then it will be quite easy, much easier to gain that realization of emptiness.
Then namgalang so karma thonggu na timba gidibni deyena tenganzo namge karma de thongtu mara ta timba de khale pa sangma te namge karma de stratingi thongdo de na sing tiba denzo khale tha soina ni chenyi ne lo to la tin tab de chagr.
So for example, if we want to see the stars in the sky, it will be difficult to see the stars in the sky if there are clouds covering them. These will obscure the stars. But if these clouds are slowly removed, they gradually move away, then those stars will appear to us quite brightly because the clouds have been removed.
Yeah.
So in the same way, if we can slowly, over time, remove the obscurations, clear away the obscurations, then the realization of that nature of reality, the natural state, will arise in us.
지단기 디바 장야am 디바 타에 칼침부 시다라와 대대기 아니 남게게 karma 통구에 나 디바 타에 대pe 칼침부로 디바데 파마 얄만도 버도 karma 통구 말아와.
So we can see from the analogy that how important the practice of purifying the obscurations and purifying the obscurations is. If we don't purify the obscurations, we will not be able to, that the realization will not arise for us, will not dawn for us, just as it is, so in that way it's very important. It's the key factor to purify the obscuration. Just as when we're looking at the sky, the key factor to see the stars is to clear away the clouds. I think you all understand this. It's very clear that we are not able to see the stars if there's clouds in front of the stars. So when the clouds are covering the stars, what do we need? We need to clear away and dispel those clouds, and in order to do that, we need the wind. The wind is what will come and clear away the clouds so that we can see the star.
Ngöndro, Samye, Dorsum Gomde, Mandala, Lamentation, aten sama lungre.
And so what is the wind here for us? The wind here is the 4 thoughts that turn the mind away from samsara, the practice of a refuge, bodhicitta, meditation of Vajrasattva, the Mandala Offering, and Guru Yoga. This is the wind that we need. This is really, these things are really important for us.
Okay, today we here time finish. We stop here. Please chant this longer Ngöndro one time, one day. It's better, good. If you don't have time today, people say before I talk. If you do like that, I'm happy. Yeah, if you think I'm Lama Sonam happy, you hope that, please chant this. Then please listen more this teaching again. Okay, I also listen again. I teach, but I also listen again because why? Sometimes I forgot the word. Then I listen. Oh, now I know. Oh, some forgot. Then I repeat again like that. Please, you also do like that. Okay. Thank you so much. Sonam Jeye Tamje Sebani Tomne Nyebe Ranam Pamje Kenga Nachi Balam Trugai Sibe Chole Rowan Rolwara Show.